Japan has some weird stuff going on across the pond. At least to Westerners, it's weird. Some of it does translate well, like anime being the most normie example, and of course, video games. Stuff like Final Fantasy, Tekken, amongst plenty others, have loads of Western fans to the point of becoming gaming icons. And then there's stuff like this. Yeah, today we're gonna look at some of these games. The outlandish ones that the West either never got to see or didn't see until years later. And honestly, why not begin with whatever you want to call this right here? Cho Aniki for the PlayStation. Or in English, it's Super Big Brother. A game that rips all the words out of my soul in the matter of 10 to 15 seconds. What is happening? Or more importantly, why is this happening? A blue man is dancing around, he starts to melt, foot fetish gaming makes its appearance, the blue monster comes closer to the screen, then flower with a man's face on it, and we are now given the choice of man or woman. A choice that didn't even matter at first, because it makes me play as a spinning man who shoots massive lasers and appears to be the size of a building, regardless of which character you chose. Our enemies in this city are little happy monsters, I think. I did try my darndest to survive against them. Unfortunately, it started becoming too much for me. These small creatures took down the behemoth, so my newfound friend grabs his crotch and dies. But it's fine. To my understanding, that's what created the universe. If you ignore this man using another man as a pogo stick, we can see Adam with no god sticking his finger out, waiting for someone. If you put two and two together, he must have been waiting for the spinning man. This guy created the universe. It also explains why we pick man or woman in the beginning. I actually do remember this character selection screen before coming out of the womb. The part of childbirth that I don't remember though was swimming through the universe with two other men spinning around me, making my way to take down an oversized Arnold Schwarzenegger that has a man who comes out of his Johnson region flexing his extendo arms and also his head that kills you instantly. I wonder if Arnold's face actually looks like that when he delivers the juice. This is the first level and I'm already speechless. I might as well just sit here in silence. How do you make this stuff up? Seriously, I have a guy flying at me doing pull-ups on a missile. Others are hovering across the screen, wearing a duck, I think, around their waist, shooting pellets at me. Like, what is going on? I guess this is what cultured folk call art. Alright, if we ignore these strange visuals and look purely at Cho Aniki's gameplay, it's honestly pretty good. You go through each level, fighting whatever the game decides to put you against, we'll say, hoping to get these potato skins, that's what they look like at least, to increase the power of your weapon and go against a boss at the end of each stage. Like here, I'm going against a stack of men who are kneeling on top of each other. Now, the boss is a frog with a shell on its back. One that sticks his mouth to the wall and stretches his face across the screen, shooting out red rectangles as he retracts, because why not? This fight is incredibly difficult if you don't know you're supposed to sit in front of the frog in this specific spot thanks to the rectangles having heat-seeking powers. Regardless of what tactics you do though, you're going to lose one of your protectors. I don't even know what they're supposed to be called. These side characters are the only real difference between picking man or woman at the beginning. The guy has two larger spinning men that are on the sides. The girl has two angel children. If they get hit enough throughout the level, they die, leaving you exposed on either the top or bottom. So in a roundabout way, that means children die in this game. Where is the adult-only rating? These protectors also shoot out extra projectiles too, so it's not good when the children body shields get shot too much. How else are you going to kill the war tank? We cannot defeat it without the children. Just kidding. During my battle, they just sat on the side of the screen doing these poses since both of them were dead, thanks to Cho Aniki getting very difficult after a while. Like, some parts of this game are just insane. How am I supposed to avoid all these man seagulls, planes, hermit crab people? It's unbelievable. There's so much going on, I can't even comprehend it all. The only way I could come remotely close to not losing all my lives in this level is wasting the laser special attack in the beginning. You get it once per level and you're invincible while doing it, but even when I harnessed that power, I still died repeatedly. This game does not play around, which to me made it a lot more enjoyable. If you like hard 2D shooter games, this one will definitely give you a stiffy. As with the sequel, yes, this game actually does have sequels. This one clearly has the greatest cover art of all time. It released in 2003 on the PlayStation 2, and the art style shifted to an animated style rather than having the digitized people of the original. In the first game, there's an option where you can look at the behind the scenes on the blue screen, seeing some of the photo shoots of the people posing and whatnot. FMV grime in gaming is always really fun to look at, so it sucks all of it is gone now. The first game had a lot more charm because of it. The sequel did have a couple other smaller changes on top of that. Now you play as a little gray puff cloud with a red circle inside of it, rather than being man or woman. You're also able to pick 2 different formations for your spinning men this time around, out of a total of 4, to add some variety in gameplay. These obviously aren't the biggest changes since the discovery of cream cheese, but it's something. And the core game clearly had enough draw to start building a little series for itself, even to the point of actually releasing in the US. In 2010, there was a PSP release called Cho Aniki Muscle Brothers, adding another layer to this exhilarating series. Except this time, our main enemy is Balzac, or is it supposed to be Ballsack? Honestly, with the game we're playing, Ballsack sounds about right. More importantly though, we get to play as Ben 10. Outside of that, it's more Cho Aniki 2D shooter action. And if that really isn't good enough for you, then fine. We can look at a game that barely has any gameplay at all, but will still make some people speechless. LSD Dream Emulator, one of, if not, the most famous game that never left Japan. It's simply known for being a very surreal experience, playing out like a journal. Each day that passes is a level, so to speak, with you not having much of anything to do while you play. There's no weapons, no attacking, or even enemies for that matter. There isn't even a true death or game over. You just walk aimlessly, butting into walls, falling off of cliffs, entering dark corridors, transitioning from location to location, not knowing what weird shit you're about to see. On one hand, you could arrive in the miniature world with a Big Ben, Eiffel Tower, and a bunch of heads from Easter Island. Maybe you could enter a grass wasteland with these strange looking lions that you bounce off of for some reason, or even watch an oversized person in their medieval cosplay walking through buildings, eventually making the discovery the person never had feet and they were hovering all along. And my personal favorite, being welcomed to a kingdom by a bunch of elves standing on these Lego structures, blaring their trumpets that make no noise whatsoever. No matter the entities you see or locations your eyes are blessed to look at, after a while, your day will end and it'll be rated on this chart here. I'm not entirely sure what dictates these dreams and their placements unless it's more than apparent. Like if you're in these dark streets, you're probably not going to have a good time and the dream will be considered a downer. With that, there's honestly nothing else to say. This is the entire game. This is literally all you do. You walk around butting into things. To a lot of players out there, LSD Dream Emulator won't really have any reason to exist. Looking at it, especially at the time period, this was just not video game. This was video game. How is someone supposed to enjoy themselves when all they see are people running on a pathway with pink fog, then disappear shortly into their quest? It's not possible. Where is my machine gun to mow them all down? Why can I not rip these polygonal people's hearts out? Unacceptable video game. To be fair though, in the commercials, they did say, this is no game, so you can't be too angry about what you experience. But after looking at a few of the indescribable locations you visit, some may ask, what's the point of the game then? There's nothing to do really, aside from walk around. Well, just like Cho Aniki, it's art. This time, however, it's actually supposed to be an expression of art with no other real reason to exist. The creator of LSD, Osamu Sato, didn't really care that much or even want to create video games. He's not a Jack Thompson adjacent video game hating character or anything. The guy just didn't give a damn about them. So his idea was to use this as a means to express his artistic talents. It's supposed to be a multifaceted art simulator, I guess you could say. The game was partially based on a dream journal from one of the employees at Asmic Entertainment that you can actually read online or even purchase. It's called Lovely Sweet Dreams. The book has a lot of interesting and bizarre visuals drawn to go alongside the dreams talked about within. It's a pretty good read, honestly. When it comes to the most standout piece of art in the game, the hardest hitter to me is the soundtrack. It's what you're hearing in the background. The soundtrack is almost indescribable in words. It's a very dystopian, weird, and uncomfortable, but also good at the same time soundtrack. which I guess encapsulates the entirety of LSD in of itself. Sure, the gameplay is completely flaccid and has nothing to do in a traditional sense, but once you stop being an uncultured swine and join the movement, you can see the surreal nature of everything actually builds a captivating universe that makes people want to talk about it. In the late 90s, games like this weren't really a thing. Alongside the unique visuals and soundtracks, LSD even has FMV cutscenes that got mixed in. I got to see this totally real UFO that flew over Japan in the 90s. How could people not talk about this game when it's proving aliens are real? If you're a deep thinker or really enjoy games that leave things up to the player's interpretation, this game's pretty good. If you don't like that stuff, it's probably garbage. LSD has grown a cult following over the years due to the eccentric design, even to the point of there being a fan remake. That carrot on a stick method was powerful enough to keep people engaged. They want to see what strange things will come, asking the biggest question of all: will you run into the Gray Man? He's the only reoccurring character who appears sporadically with no explanation on good trips and bad trips. Yeah, that can be said about everything else, but this guy has a real ominous aura to him. In the early 2010s, 15 whole years ago when creepypastas were relevant, holy shit, it is scary the time has gone by that fast. People had a field day with this guy, writing plenty of creepypastas about him, sorta making the dude mainstream. He's easily top 5 video game ominous figures. And you know what else fits right into that list alongside him? Giant anime jiggle physics, or as us mortals refer to it, Demolition Girl. When you look at this cover art, it may be a bit confusing at first. The back of a girl wearing a bikini with a plane flying by. It's weird cover art, right? No, this shouldn't be confusing at all. This is actually showing you the cookie you just bit off of. The intro cutscene shows you who we think is the protagonist, Rio. She's at Minakojima Island for a photo shoot. The pictures go well, then all of a sudden, uh-oh, Scoob, what is this? She gets bit, now she's big, and we need to play as the military to stop this beast. Your first objective is, use the research beam on breast, hips, buttocks, and face. The time limit for the mission is 180 seconds for the breast. Never in my life would I think I'd be playing a game that says breast data acquisition on the top of my screen, but here we are. This is the game right here. You could purchase this in a store with real life money. Are you horny yet? This is amazing. As I sit here and play this, I can't help but think, as a kid, how would you explain this to your parents if they walked in on you playing it? Mom, it's just research. Look, it says data on chest acquired. Now deal with its hips. A little part of me is struggling to believe that Demolition Girl is a real game. The premise is ridiculous. It's having me fly around an oversized girl in a bikini, scanning or shooting parts of her body in a helicopter. I don't even know what to say about this. But to be serious for a second, if you look at everything for real, ignoring the quote-unquote plot, Demolition Girl is actually terrible. My main reason for saying that is because the controls are disgusting. Why am I pressing the face buttons to go up, down, left, and right on the PlayStation 2? A console with controllers that have 2 analog sticks. Trying to move around and shoot is way more difficult than it should be. Plus, the movement is unbelievably stiff. On level 2, there's no reason I was having as much trouble as I was trying to fill up various parts of this girl's body with anesthetic needles. Even when I delivered a building-sized piece of cake for her to eat and she slowly licks her finger afterwards, I could barely deal with it. The whole situation got worse when the game expected me to go against real enemies. In level 3, you're tasked to kill 50 UFOs that are trying to stop our allied helicopters carrying Rio across the ocean. I was flabbergasted when I got told that. With these controls, no way in hell is combat happening. But thank Bob, the game gives you lock-on missiles that have infinite ammo, otherwise this mission would have been almost impossible. Which is something my heart would not be able to deal with. I want to see what transpires in this invigorating tale more than anything else on Earth. You cannot prevent this story from continuing. So, was my anticipated victory worth it? No. When you reach the 4th level, we're told Rio went missing after the attack of the UFOs, and she has been sighted on the slopes of Mount Fuji. This raises a couple questions. Mainly, how could she even go missing when she's like 80 feet tall? She's a structure with legs. That doesn't even make sense. Whatever, she's evil now, I guess, thanks to the little crab coming back. Oh, my trusty dusty lock-on missiles saved the day once more in one of the toughest battles known to man. Now we're driving a tank on the highway to stop Ryo from reaching Tokyo. By shooting her with explosive shells as she just looks at me like I asked her a borderline question and then throws a building at me. Yay, Tokyo is saved. But oh no, the crab monster has separated from Ryo and is doing something, so we need to press 2 buttons and save the entire world of Japan from its wrath. As Ryo is climbing up the building like King Kong, the military emerges victorious in the war, then Swerveroony, the entire story was a dream, credit roll, game over. That was the entire game, story and all. It has 6 levels, you essentially do the same thing on all of them, with the tiny saving grace of having quests to do. And I use saving grace very, very loosely. Compared to any other game, it's dirt. These quests are just challenges, and if you complete them all, you get to look at a picture. Obviously, the quests are cultured classics like complete Chapter 2 hitting both of Ryo's breasts with a syringe. How wonderful is that? Demolition Girl is more than apparent to be a low-budget title, a part of Japanese gaming I don't really know much about. The only experience I have with low-budget games are the things we've looked at on this channel before, like Phoenix Games and Blast Entertainment. Those companies are essentially gaming content mills who produce games that are barely games. Finding something half decent released by either of them is almost impossible, and when I looked into the publisher of Demolition Girl, D3 Publisher, great name by the way, that's when I had the thought, I'm pretty sure this is the Phoenix Games of Japan. There is a line of Japanese-only games that are called the 2000 series. D3 Publisher released practically all of them, and almost every single one is made with popsicle sticks and Elmer's glue, for Japan standards at least. When I gave the Daikaiju a whirl, I had a flashback of playing Universal Studios on GameCube again. This looks exactly like the Jaws game in there. Thankfully, there's more to do here that I can't figure out because I can't read this language, forcing me to rage quit and try The Sencha instead, which was a tank combat game, one that's surprisingly functional and has some unlockables in there. It does get boring after 5 minutes, thanks to there being 0 depth whatsoever, and you repeatedly do the same exact thing in every single mission. But if you compare this to most of the Phoenix Games titles out there, it's not that bad. These games don't appear to reuse assets, at least from the handful I tested out. It's possible Phoenix Games trademarked that practice, I don't know. So that means these 2000 series games were released with partial honor behind them, for whatever that's worth. And yeah, obviously, when you move away from comparing these to a Phoenix Games title, you can see the quality is incredibly low just by looking at the visuals alone, and most get boring after about 5 minutes of playtime. Like if we look at Tosu Highway, also known as Road Warrior 2050, it's a game where you just drive on a highway with motorcyclists coming at you in a post-apocalyptic setting. You can shoot them with your gun that will sometimes kill them, sometimes it won't, or you can ram into these people, seeing what happens when you mix human skin with the concrete. There's hardly anything to do, you have a 4-hour time limit, and I refuse to believe anyone would play Road Warrior 2050 anywhere close to that, ever. I guess the game's supposed to be a speedrunner's masterclass, but I don't think you're gonna catch anyone ever doing that with this game. The only interesting part of Road Warrior 2050 is the intro cutscene. You're shown some sort of nuclear explosion, world-ending picture for the story, and down here is the date of when the legendary 2020 sickness was considered official. Wow, what a scary future-telling moment. I'm too scared to play this game now. That's the excuse I'll use. So I can instead envelop myself into the greatest first-person shooter game to ever grace the land of the rising sun. Survival Game 2. You can pick your weapons, characters, change your gear, and load into this demonic shooter game, having some of the laggiest movement I have ever seen. Anytime you move or turn, everything needs to shake around to show you how powerful this game is, pushing the PlayStation 2 to the absolute limit. For 2007, I'm impressed by this. Who wouldn't be? Call of Duty 4 had nothing on this immaculate gameplay. If you're wondering how the first survival game was, I don't know, I couldn't find it. I'm sure it was just as stunning though. Maybe this company will need a more extensive deep dive eventually. The only thing I can say for the limited time I was blessed by their presence is Japan stays winning. Their shovelware is higher quality than the European shovelware. It's still sad regardless, but in the Johnson measuring contest, Japan wins. Even the other companies who tossed their hat into the low-budget gaming trend of the mid-2000s released better games than Phoenix or Blast, like Yoshinoya. Yes, the one and only Beef Bowl company has a game for PlayStation 2, and it's definitely one of those games you need to be locked in for. All you do is press a few buttons that appear on screen as you move around giving customers their delicious sodium-filled beef bowl as it gets faster and faster, with the customers pounding on the table when they don't get what they want, when they want it. I'm glad even with how ridiculous this game is, they kept it grounded in reality. As you continue on, you reach this WarioWare-ass minigame with the Pringles mustache man. You have to build his meal in real time, forcing you to do a couple minigames to satisfy his needs. I don't know, I kinda like the game. All the characters are over-exaggerated with their animations, and it can get pretty intense. It's a pretty solid low-budget title. Who knew the beef could deliver a decent little game? It's always fun finding a random game you never knew existed and enjoy it more than you should. Which is exactly what happened to me when I played Slap Happy Rhythm Busters. Never heard of this, one time in my entire life. I looked at the cover art and the name, expecting to need like a DDR dance pad or something to play it. Couldn't be more wrong. This is a fighting game that's pretty damn good. Not only because there's a character that's literally named Trash, I obviously chose this guy as my first, by the way, but it really tried to create a standout aura for itself, one where even if you don't like it, you can still appreciate the elbow grease stuck in. Some of the characters, at least to me, came off as pretty unique, not only in design. A few play differently from what I've experienced from other titles that released around the year 2000. Vivian and Roxy stand on top of each other using the other sibling, whatever they're supposed to be, for some of their combos. Then Yuri can fly around in the air with a jetpack, having more aerial maneuverability than anyone else in the game. Then you, of course, have the slower, heavier hitting characters, fast ones, all having smoother gameplay than I anticipated. It's genuinely stunning to me that I've never heard of Slap Happy before. The animations, character designs, combat fluidity, background art, all of it's great, especially if you're an EDM, jet set radio ass enjoyer. Slap Happy's soundtrack is the biggest standout to me. It really puts the rhythm in Rhythm Busters, alongside the main gimmick of the game. Probably being the most interesting and also weird aspect, every character has a special attack when their meter is full. When you land it, you need to play a rhythm game, inputting directionals shown on screen, doing way more damage than it should. You can do around 50 to 60% if you're good at it, and to be honest, these aren't really hard to follow along with. If you end up killing your opponent with the attack, having a high hit ratio, you get to see a fever, which is just a little cutscene of your character doing a funky dance. Maybe you'll see a bull charging into whoever you just beat into the ground. At the end, your character will do a finishing attack to send them off with a one-way ticket back to wherever they came from. It's pretty weird, but I've never seen or even thought a fighter would mix in a rhythm game as a big piece of the combat, so big ups to them for knuckling in the creativity. Unfortunately, there doesn't appear to be much of a story for those who care about that in these sorts of games. All you get is a little comic-styled picture for the character you're going against before every fight that doesn't really have any explanation or context. And when you finish the arcade ladder, finally taking down the one and only Rude Boy, yeah, that's actually his name, the characters don't even have endings, just instant credit roll. What a shame. I want to know the presumed elaborate backstory behind Trash. I'm still satisfied with it regardless. It's always a knee slapper finding these hidden gems, mainly the ones with standout art styles. So keeping in line with that, Rakugaki Showtime, an entire game that's like a drawing. I'm not sure who these characters are or if they even have names. What I do know, however, is how bonkers Rakugaki Showtime becomes after you start getting into it. At first, I didn't really have any understanding of what was happening. I was spamming buttons to my heart's content, as you should when you play a game you don't understand the language of. I was attempting to beat on these other crayon drawing people that tried to stand against me. I'm slowly becoming becoming an amoeba, absorbing all the knowledge I could to exist in this world of chaos. I was throwing them around or grabbing whatever items are drawn into the battlefield. Stuff like red homing missiles, other missiles that create a small black hole sucking enemies into it. This black urn looking thing with a unicorn horn on top that turns out to be a bomb with a radius covering the entire floor when it explodes. We got these weapons that look like nukes, creating a large bubble, damaging enemies inside. At least I think it does. It's hard to tell sometimes when you can't see what's happening because of all the explosions going off everywhere. No joke, I feel like I'm living out one of those drawings the weird kid would make of his family getting blown up. But the one thing you need to keep your eye on, no matter how crazy things get, is this Walmart smiley face. To my understanding, it's the best weapon, mainly because it spawns constantly. It's also how you activate your chosen character's special attack. You keep throwing it until the face turns to whatever this emotion is. After throwing it again, the special will activate. They do seem to be hit or miss. With my first character, the ball just bounces all over the place with no tracking, and the enemies move out of the way, so it doesn't do anything 99% of the time. Not too helpful. Then others have specials where you're turned into LeBron no help, terrorizing the entire field with death to the point of it being hard to see what you're doing. And with all this going on, surely you'd expect Rakugaki Showtime to be borderline unplayable. There are so many explosions, scribbles, it gets out of control. Shockingly, the playability is fantastic thanks to the movement, which to me is the best part of the game. As you can see, every level has these little pads scattered about. If you jump, hold the directional, then press jump again, you can go from pad to pad or travel to items around the level, allowing you to keep a very fast pace, flying all over the place, dunking on people. It adds a whole new layer to the experience that it wouldn't have otherwise. I'm not the biggest fan of arena brawlers. With this movement though, not a bad time, especially if you factor in how you can play with up to 4 players. I'd love to try that, but I can't, so I'm stuck only going against the AI, because fuck my life. Rakugaki Showtime sadly doesn't have buckets and buckets of things to say about it. It's a straightforward game that anyone can pick up and play, containing a surprising amount of depth within. Then, of course, it has that standout art style with the crayon characters. Hell, the final boss is a hand holding a pencil. You get to battle this universe's version of God. This is real gaming, wrapped in a 1999 package. And it was also developed by the same company that made McDonald's Treasureland Adventure on the Sega. What a small world we live in. It's genuinely a shame we didn't get this in the West. Apparently, we weren't good enough to get a lot of these eccentric-styled games, being art style or just a bizarre premise, for the most part at least. Mr. Mosquito 100% falls into the weird category, and this actually did get a Western release. It took a whole year after Japan, and it's also one of the few games I can think of where the spelling changes in the regions. In Japan, the game was called Ka, so that doesn't count, but the PAL version is called Mr. Mosquito, spelt like this, and the US is Mr. Mosquito. Why change the spelling? Whatever, doesn't matter. You've probably heard of this one before, mainly due to it being ported on the PlayStation 4 and 5 last year. In this wonderful game, you get to live out the life of a mosquito, going from level to level, flying around the inside of a family's home, nibbling on their flesh and sucking the blood out of them, while trying to avoid getting caught. The entire game plays out in a 3D environment where you can fly around sections of the house, find some collectibles, and yeah, that's really it. The most noteworthy thing that happened to me while playing was getting into a battle. I was not expecting this. If you get caught, the human gets mad, starting up the battle. All you do is fly into the targeted part of whoever your victim is, while avoiding them flailing their arms around trying to kill you. In this one, I had to hit the girl's forehead while she was taking a bath. Then she becomes relaxed, apparently, giving you an opportunity to get another bite. Don't go too crazy, though. She might monkey pound her chest and kill you. By the way, I'm really hoping for the streets this girl is over 18 if we're almost showing some nipple. Outside of that, there's not much going on. In my eyes, this comes off as a game that would be perfect for like a tech demo, attempting to show how radical 3D movement can be in the next generation that was 25 years ago. Weirdly, Mr. Mosquito does have a sequel. It was only released in Japan, called Ka 2 Let's Go Hawaii, and this one we can play as the American Mosquito and the classic, with 2 whole different families to terrorize. It's essentially the same as the first, except here, the battles are a bit more advanced. This bitch is getting ready to break every bone in my body. Look at this fighting stance. Who prepares like this when they go against a bug? Your hand alone is the size of a planet compared to them. Once it starts, you need to hit the person multiple times in the highlighted areas to make her teleport back to her bed. The multiple hits is the added depth I was talking about. It's not actually more depth, but whatever. I didn't play the second game as much as I should have. Sadly, I couldn't enjoy the story because I haven't reached the Japanese language part of the Life Battle Pass yet, so all I was able to do is look at these laughably obnoxious jiggle physics and fly around. But even if I can't understand the language, all I can say is leave it up to Japan to take an insect that makes anyone who loves the outdoors want to tie weights to their ankles and jump off a boat look so cute when it's fat. Look at this guy. He makes me want to do a front flip cannonball in the middle of my kitchen, just like the mother of this household does, for no reason whatsoever. And speaking of balls, why not play a game that's more relaxing than Mr. Mosquito, revolving around making the biggest one possible, Katamari Damacy. Having one of the greatest stories ever written. The entirety of the cosmos was destroyed by your very own papa, and you, as the small prince, must go around various places on Earth, rolling up a bunch of meaningless objects until it gets to the size that makes your big papa happy. Once the ball becomes big enough, he takes the wad of filth and turns it into a star or constellation to help rebuild the galaxy. That's the actual story. You're trying to rebuild the universe using garbage, and in some cases, cats or humans. Whatever gets the ball rolling, I guess. But if you really look at it, in a roundabout way, we are a terrorist. We're destroying the lands minute by minute. Innocent people live here who did nothing to initiate this war. However, we're not a bad terrorist because we're having fun. Just like Mr. Mosquito and some of the other games we've talked about, what you see here is self-explanatory. There's no possible way anyone could go on a 20,000 minute tirade about Katamari Damacy, unless I'm missing some sort of deep lore stories that are more extensive than anything else in history. It can't be done. With that said, that does not mean you can't play Katamari Damacy for 20,000 minutes. This game is oddly satisfying in ways I can't really describe, not only because we get to take a ride on the royal rainbow spewed out of the mouth of our very own father. The simple idea of building a ball of destruction, steamrolling cities, camps, wherever we are, must tug at the animalistic desires of the human brain, creating an addicting gameplay loop. Every level plays out the same. We have a time limit to build our ball to whatever size is shown in the corner, starting with the little items, eventually able to grab the biggest stuff possible. Occasionally, your dad will chime in while you're doing it, dropping little nuggets of lore, I think. The same place. We took our first swim ever in this very place. We feel a growing sense of hope. We should put this in the diary. How nice of you to think of this while we're leveling out civilization. The game is incredibly repetitive, but it's also really fun and more relaxing than anything else. Watching this ball get larger and larger, eating people and animals. Honestly, if the world reaches its final chapter with a monstrosity like this right here, blowing everything up, who would complain about it? Just keep these horrifying Roblox looking people away. These don't need to be a part of the world-ending celebration. And what's a celebration without a party? In the final minutes of Earth, you can spend the last of your time playing Bishi Bashi Special. Alright, it's not actually a party game, but it could be used as one. This is like old-timer WarioWare. Bishi Bashi Special is 2 games in one. You have Super and Hyper, both containing plenty of minigames, all having incredibly short time limits. One making you choose the right piece of a face. You need to do math. Picking the correct letters, running down the alphabet, build a hamburger, throw a pie into a crowd of people. I'm not kidding how many minigames it has. There are so many of them. When you play the adventure mode, the minigames are randomized, so you don't play the same ones repeatedly to help prevent it from getting boring. Just like Katamari Damacy, it shows how overpowered simplicity can be if it's done well. These are literally Ooga Booga games, and I played this for like 2 hours. Bishi Bashi also excels in showing the dynamic of how depressing it is when you play one of these types of games by yourself. Special Bishi Bashi doesn't have a CPU on most games, so the real entertainment value only comes from Hyper Bishi Bashi that did add one. Granted, it's not the smartest AI, but it makes everything feel less depressing, which is always great. It's not like there's a story you can enjoy when you play by yourself. This game doesn't have one. So for the story heads out there, get fucked. That's what games like Demolition Girl are for. Originally, I didn't plan on putting Bishi Bashi Special in here. There's not much to talk about, and I feel like I've said that like 400 times. Unfortunately, that's what happens when trying to play games from other parts of the world. You're limited on what you can try, unless it actually had a Western release, or you understand the language. I really wanted to give Hungry Ghosts a whirl. This was the game that made me trip into the Japanese game rabbit hole in the first place. I couldn't talk about it in the video though, since I don't know what's going on. I can't read anything. As with Sagare Ijiri, with visuals like this, I couldn't imagine the hootenanny unfolding before our very eyes. So I was forced to stick with titles that are easier to understand from a gameplay perspective, or again, they were released in the West. Bishibashi, Katamari Damacy, Mr. Mosquito, and so on. Regardless if it did or not, almost every game today was pretty enjoyable. I found a few hidden gems in there that I never knew about before now. This is a whole new universe to me. Seeing the artistic choices and how radically different games are stylized makes me want to indulge myself deeper into the whole. Since I'm sure there's plenty more of these out there that I'm not aware of, make sure to put the ones you know about in the comments below. Also, share your thoughts about the games we talked about today. I'm curious to hear what you all have to say about them, and if you somehow made it to the end, thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Check out the playlist on screen for more videos just like this one. As always, take very good care of yourselves, and I hope to see you all again in the next video.